Beautiful. Episode 98 of From Everyone. I'm here with David Benites, vocalist of Renesans. My man, thank you for making the trip down here. Before we dive into stuff, I like to start with plugs here. So for starters, if you're listening and interested in a music video, hit me up. Let's make something unique and memorable. David, I know we got the EP out now. So Born from the End is streaming everywhere. It's been out for a year-ish, but it is everywhere. I know we just got back from tour. And of course, Extreme Vocal Institute is out now. So if you're interested in vocal lessons, coaching, anything, any way to get vocals better, go there. Yeah, there's plenty of resources for free for accessible stuff, and of course plenty of paid resources if they want to go deeper in that. Is there anything else coming up that we want to talk about? Anything else before we dive into the episode that people should know about coming up in the next month or two?
Right now, we're just kind of taking a breather right now that we just got back from tour, and we're gearing up to leave for the Road to Warp tour in Scranton, Pennsylvania at the Ritz Theater. I'm really, really excited about that.
Hell yes. I know you're back from tour of the Skylit Drive just now.
Yes.
I think I saw in a past interview you were talking about like some of the dates. You mentioned that Toronto was one that you were really looking forward to as like a peak. Did that live up to the hype? Was it everything you were hoping it would be?
It was definitely a chaotic day, and truth be told, it was my first time leaving the country, leaving the US for any reason, which there's been a lot of different like potential reasons I was going to leave. Like, oh, we need you in Prague like tomorrow, or hey, can you come to Germany for this, that, the other thing? There's been so many things like that over the years, and they just happen through sheer circumstance to have not panned out just yet. So this trip to Toronto on this tour with the Skylit Drive was my first time leaving, and that was definitely a learning experience, although we were very, very well prepared. I like to be prepared on tour, but it was a lot of fun, and it was really, really cool to see friends I don't get to see very often, meet a lot of people in person I've never been able to meet before, and then play for a totally new audience in a really cool way.
100%. I'm always like amazed by the dichotomy of the like planning side of the music industry, where it's like people have tours for 2026 lined up, and then there's also, hey, come to Prague tomorrow side of the music industry.
Yep, exactly.
And I've had both these, right? I've had people say, we need a music video 2026. It's like, all right. Then I've also had, we need a video by Friday. And both of these are very normal. And it just feels like a bizarre industry where I feel like so many other jobs have like, a norm. And for us, it's like everything's on the table at all times. It's always possible here.
Yep, and there's just no in between. It's
Zero.
Either, oh yeah, we're projecting this so far out, we're all going to be ancient, or like I need this yesterday, like ultimate level of urgency and everything. No in between.
Are you a planner so much? Are you someone who prefers the 2026? Are you happy to kind of live in the moment and be like, whatever, I'll go to Prague tomorrow?
I definitely prefer to have a plan if and when I can, which is not that often. So I've gotten really good at adapting and having to do things on the fly, especially for whether it's something with Renesans, my band, or if I'm out on tour coaching with what I do with Extreme Vocal Institute. It's so many last minute decisions, last minute details changing, and just needing to be adaptable and having to just spur of the moment change what is going on and make sure that you're handling it with grace. I'm
such a planner, and that was such an enormous challenge for me to get over in this, especially in like music video context of like, I always have a plan for set, and I feel like we get 80% of it on a good day, but there's always something of, fuck, this person locked some door that we need to get access to, someone is late today, some light just blew up, something. I had a guitar break on set the other day, and it's like, well, fuck, I wish we were at a level where we had 10 guitars in the band, but we don't. This is the one guitar we have today, so let's call someone's dad who is able to fix guitars and see if we can get this thing figured out today. And it's just, it's an ever-changing challenge here. I want to start here with the EP, where I know this was out, and I was kind of curious for you, where like, I feel like you have established yourself as like a chameleon vocally. And what I mean here is like in learning to like imitate other voices and teach other voices, where I know you have the tutorials of, how to scream like Chester Bennington, Alex Terrible, all these different people. It feels like you've gained 100 different voices. And like when I was checking out the EP, one of the comments on it was like, it feels like there's 20 vocalists on this song, which must be a great compliment. It also feels like it'd be like almost an abundance of riches kind of problem here, where like when you finally get to the EP and you finally get your chance to express your own voice, it's like, well, fuck, which voice do I use, and which voice is David, and which voice is David trying to be Chester, and how, like, we're all inspired by Chester, right? Like, I think everyone grew up on Linkin Park, and it would be foolish to say that there's zero Chester in this. We also don't want to be Chester on the record, and it feels like it'd be very hard to sit down with these songs and be like, who is David and who is these other people I've been learning? Was that a challenge? How did you approach like finding David's voice on the record and separating it from all the other voices that you've taught?
And it's really interesting that you ask that way, because that was a very unique kind of issue that I had to deal with when we were not only just working on this debut release, Born from the End, but when it came down to even forming what we wanted Renesans to be and what I wanted this band to be. What do I want to do creatively? Because I've been in so many different bands over the course of my lifetime and my career. And I really wanted Renesans to encapsulate everything that I am and everything that I love most about this whole world of music and the things that excite me about it the most, but do it in a way where I could streamline it and do it in a way where it felt the most impactful and the songs feel the most genuine and have that flair and excitement and that kind of expansive variety that a lot of people know me for vocally, but honing it in and bringing it home enough that the songs feel cohesive, the songs are memorable, the songs are lasting, and people really latch on to them, which incredibly, and I'm so thankful people have really latched onto it. But it did take a lot of time for me to figure out exactly what direction I wanted to go in. And being able to do like 1,000 different voices, how do I pick which ones work for any given song is something I still think about to this day.
I'm sure, yeah.
But that being said, and especially because we just got back from yet another tour within this whole first year of us being a touring band, which has been insane, it's really helped me to figure out not even just the way different audiences respond to what I'm doing or like what works for the songs, but what do I enjoy doing most? Because even though I'm the one teaching everybody how to do all of this stuff, of course I have my preferences. Like no one is without bias of some sort. So I really feel like I've done an awesome job of bringing together these things and putting it into this first release, Born from the End, and putting that out into the world the way we did and getting the response we have has been awesome. And it makes me really excited to get into the process of making that even better moving forward.
100%. And I'm fascinated by this because I think I've heard you describe that like part of the reason you got into teaching was because like so many vocalists have their one voice and they feel so confined to that and they feel so overwhelmed by trying to branch out of this. And then I think there's the other side of the spectrum that people complain about, like vocal gymnastics, right? Which I think is the equivalent of a guitar solo every song, every second. And it's like, I think for you, it'd be this unique problem of like, well, you're not on the one voice end of the spectrum, right? You have grown out of that. But there's also this other fine line of like, well, if I have 100 voices, if I use 100 voices, is there a diminishing return point here? And it feels like an impossible balance to try and find. And like, I find this in my own music video sense of like, I really enjoy, I think similar to your coaching here, where like, I get to join a new band every month. And every month I'm teaching a new style, which I assume is equivalent to like teaching We Came as Romans is very different than teaching whoever else, Alex Terrible or whoever, I don't know if you taught him specifically, but whoever else, like there's a bunch of different people and like teaching, you get to join a new camp, but then coming back to the sense of like, well, then which one is me? And for me in music videos, there's a similar thing of like, well, every month I'm in a new band. Who is Peter in all of this? What do I want to make? And if I was in an echo chamber without a band, what would I make? And it's always this fine balance. It feels like I never have to do that because I never make a music video out of a band. You certainly did have to make a record without, these other bands that you've worked with here. And it just, I empathized with trying to find that balance. And it must have been, was it stressful in the vocal booth? Was there times where you went through 100 takes, or was it just kind of lean into your gut and trust the first thing that comes out of your mouth? How much did you like go back and micromanage what was coming out of it? And how much was it just like, this is what feels right, I'm just gonna go with this?
A lot of it was taking a lot of time in the beginning stages of Renesans to work with different writers, different producers, and different people to kind of get a sense for what happens when I do my thing with this person, that person, the other person, and figure out how to have even another person in the room to hone in what I'm doing. If I just let myself go, how would another really talented, really impactful creative take that and streamline it? And in the beginning, Renesans started like a few years ago, like during COVID. We released it as just me as a way to have a creative outlet while we were like on the rise with everything with EVI and the vocal coaching. So I was working with different writers because there wasn't anybody else in the band. And as we started to gain the members that we did and meet people along the way that we really found we could trust with what this is and how important this is to me as a project and a band, bringing Dave in on guitar, bringing Ron in on bass, bringing Luke in on drums, and starting to see the way that the beast that this is started to evolve really came together, especially once we got in the room and I got in the room with our producer and also fellow songwriter JD DeBleek, and the magic that he's worked on both the band and on me as a vocalist, as a writer, as a lyricist, as a studio artist, and how we've been able to really navigate this thing together. It's been really, really, really cool. And it definitely took me some time. I used to be the type of person that would obsess about different takes and kind of like you said, just do like the same like syllable over and over and over and over again.
It seems like you have an infinite ability to go back and try 100 different ways to do it.
And I've been doing some introspective work, and I've been learning this about myself. I am insanely detail oriented, like unbelievably detail oriented. And that works very well for me in some circumstances, but then there's definitely others where I'll hang on to a little detail for definitely a little too long. And I had to work really hard on just letting that go.
Yep.
And then being able to just get into the booth and do what feels natural, do what feels right. Now I'll track a song, like I'll do a full take of something, I'll make some little tweaks here and there, and then the song will be done.
Yep.
I really don't stress about it anymore because I've gotten to the point where I really know what I want to do. And that feels really good.
I can empathize with that tremendously, where I got advice a couple of years ago that most projects are done at 80%. And that was kind of conflicting to me because I'm like you, where I'm detail oriented. I want to go to 99% and then spend another week going from 99 to 100%. And the gist of that, which I think I still have mixed feelings about, but the gist of it is just like most people see the bulk of it, and that last 20% is for you. It's an internal thing that is not affecting the way people consume this piece of art. And so it gave me a lot of freedom in the music video, where I've been talking on here recently. I did a green screen project. And there was like a forest that we were putting the band in, and like the trees were from, I think, like Norway, and the rocks are from Australia. And that like annoyed me, where it's like I couldn't find the rocks, the right moss to match the climate that belonged to the trees. And it's like that kept me up at night. No one ever cares. That is not something anyone ever cares about. That is 100% a me thing. And so I get to now laugh at myself and be like, okay, that's the 20% that doesn't matter, right? This thing was done at 80% when I got the rocks in the forest. No one cares about this last 20%, but that is the nature of art. And I think there's this balance here where it's like, that's what got us here, right? I assume like that's what made you a good teacher. That's what has made you a good learner and able to like relay that information to other people, is this detail oriented thing of being aware of like your throat positions. And I don't know exactly what goes into vocal coaching, but there's a level of detail that I assume you're aware of that to some people just like, yeah, I'm making a noise. Who cares? And you went,
That.
How do I make this noise? What is exactly happening within me? And then you can go and communicate that to someone else. And so there's this balance then, this war almost of like, well, the detail oriented got me here, but I also can't be this detail oriented for the rest of my life. I will go insane if I stay this detail oriented.
And it definitely was that, because I wouldn't have been able to formulate all of this, come up with all of the different techniques that I've created from the ground up for what all these different vocal styles are, or be able to even like pick up on the things that others are dealing with to be able to help people the way that I can, if it wasn't for that detail-oriented side of me that's able to lock on like this. But in my own life and with my own creativity, I definitely also had to learn to let that go. And using your thing as an example with the trees and the moss, National Geographic would have definitely really, really been appreciative of that extra detail that you put in. And for me, if I did like every little thing that I do in the booth or performing to like a perfect, like crossing all my T's, dotting all my I's perfect. There are plenty of other vocal coaches or other vocal experts or like collegiate experts that would be really appreciative. And that's it. And the big thing is you're not necessarily making videos for like scientific research. I'm not making music for other educators. We're making art for everyone. So we have to think about like, what does the average person really love and what do they take in? What detail do they get from all of this? And then even from there, like what kind of inspired people like us to do what we do? Like in the very beginning, like when we were kids, and that childlike excitement that isn't necessarily perfect or thoroughly educated, but very pure and very real and just very unfiltered, raw excitement. So I think I agree with you. This letting that go is really important. And I definitely developed the ability to get to the point where I'm like, if I get to 80% of anything, whether it's a day in the booth, a day on tour, whatever, that is a spectacular day now.
100%. Yeah. And it still takes me a lot of time. I still have to fight myself to not go that last extra mile. And like, again, we want to go the extra mile. And I don't think I'm sure you do the same, where it's like, you don't stop when you get to 80% and go, okay, my job's done here. But there is a relief of like, okay, appreciate that most people are only going to hear the bulk of this. And the rest of this, I'm still going to nitpick on, but just know that I'm doing it for me. That it's not something that's going to make or break the outcome of this project here. You touched on like the childhood side of it, and that to me is an important side of like keeping the 16-year-old version of me in mind, of like me with like for me it was like alt press magazines, and just like looking at all the pictures in them kind of feels like the foundation of just flipping through that, and every page is like, holy fuck, that looks so cool. And like I don't think I realized it at the time, but I think in hindsight it's like, yeah, that's the part of me that went, I want to get a camera and I want to make these moments, right? Like my journey here is wanting to be a part of music and growing up loving music, and Good Charlotte was my thing for my entire life. And then realizing I'm not musical, right? Like it's not my gift. I'm not great at it. I enjoy it. I have instruments here that I'm very poorly play, or at a third grade level play, which is more than enough for me. But I realized I was never going to make a living off of this, right? That was not my avenue. And the camera was like, I think this one might work for me. And so it sticks. I'm curious, where does your childhood then begin? Like, is this at 5 years old? I assume you're listening to Metallica or Linkin Park or Rolling Stones or something. Like, is music in the household growing up? Where does like the early roots of this adventure for you?
Compared to a lot of other people in my circles and like in my life, and even that I know just in general, I got into more alternative music and then like heavier, more extreme music much later in the game, oddly enough. And I've always lived a very musical life. Like I've had parents like very involved in different music things, like singing, playing guitar, and that definitely had an influence on me. And I was always like very musical, singing a lot from like kindergarten, first grade, second grade kind of thing, just because it's what I loved. However, the majority of what I was listening to at the time and what was available to me growing up was predominantly classical music and jazz. And that's really it. A little bit of Dave Matthews Band as a treat, but predominantly those things. And that's really where I fell in love with just how music flows and the way different ideas can connect and come together. And as I got older, being able to break that down into the details of things music theory wise, and understanding why these things work the way they do and how magical that can become once you understand that and can wield those things. And only after that, like as I was kind of halfway through high school, dealing with shifting friend groups, shifting relationships, and just a lot of different changes in my life, did I kind of accidentally start to stumble into this stuff, either through like different like cable access channels, like different music videos just getting put on TV, finding bands like Apocalyptica, for example.
I played cello growing up, so Apocalyptica was right up my
So you get it
well, but
you get it. So seeing them play these classical, beautiful instruments so aggressively and creating such incredible, beautiful art, but in a totally different direction than I thought was possible. And watching them specifically collaborate with lots of different big popular vocalists of the time was really impactful on me. And I was learning and hearing a different kind of expression that I think I really needed at the time, but I didn't even know existed or was an option.
Interesting. I believe I saw that trombone was like the big instrument for you growing up. Was this something, I assume in elementary school, was this something you were playing in school? Was it like a private lessons, like intensive thing? Like what was your, was a trombone something like you were obligated to do, or was it like every second of your life was trombone and how much can I play more trombone?
It was that. And trombone was important to me to the point where that was going to be my career. Like I had the whole thing all lined up and set. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like something like be that chair in the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and like that's it. That's the end goal. That's where I'm going. That's what I want. And I was very good at that. And I still pick up the horn every now and again. Like we just passed through Sweetwater on this last tour. And every time I'm there, I do go into the brass section just on my own. And I'm just like, hey, can I just play around with this for like 30 minutes? And I have a great time like playing different things that I used to growing up. But that was the most important thing to me. And it was always interesting. I definitely had some difficulty allowing myself to do what you're supposed to do when you're sitting in the back, playing in the lower voices and letting yourself fade into the background. I had a very, very challenging time just letting that be and letting that happen. I wanted to be a more unique voice, and hearing it kind of poke through.
There's not many trombone solos to my understanding.
Exactly. And that's when I found different jazz bands. I became the improv soloist, where I'd have to get up and think of something on the fly to be able to do that made sense with what was going on, and then slide right back into context. No pun intended. And when I found these different singers, bands like Apocalyptica, and then through that bands like 3 Days Grace, bands like Slipknot, through then getting into like Guitar Hero because of that, bands like Killswitch Engage, and then realizing that all of these incredible big metalcore original movements were happening essentially right in my backyard growing up in central Massachusetts. I was so moved just emotionally, mentally, physically by it. And when I started going to shows and seeing these things live, and then going to see bands like Disturbed live with Howard Jones era Killswitch Engage on the tour, and then outside was a free little festival that was following it around in the parking lot, which was all bands either playing their first record or their first EP, being After the Burial, Born of Osiris, and Mitch Lucker era Suicide Silence.
What a trio. Yeah. What a trio.
At that point, after seeing those kinds of things all in one day, I was like, okay, I have to do this. And it was never like, oh, I want to do this. It was an I have to do this kind of just way that it grabbed me. And I've just been full throttle into that ever since.
That's beautiful. Yes, I can relate to that so much. My first show ever was an Avenged Sevenfold show. And coincidentally, it was the 10-year memorial of 9/11. So it was a very like emotional day. And it was this big festival here at the thing. But it was one of those days that just felt larger in life because there was so much patriotism.
Yeah.
Is that patrioticness? Whatever. So much pride being displayed there. But also in the parking lot there, it was like, the local stage events. And I remember seeing kids and it was like, I think y'all are about my age. And I don't know how you got on that stage, but it's damn cool that you're up there. And I didn't know people could be on that stage. But I remember, kind of connecting like, all right, y'all were in the parking lot. Y'all were on at 1 p.m. before Event 1 at 10 p.m. or whatever the thing was. But it was like, y'all are here too. And you don't have the big Death Battle on stage. You don't have all the millions of dollars of productions with you. But you're here too. And I saw you as well. And that to me was a very like profound moment of like, oh, so it's possible. I didn't know it was possible. And then I met some friends who were in local bands. And again, it was like I didn't know you could be in a local. I didn't know local bands existed. I somehow thought you were either in Metallica or not musical. Like, I didn't know that there was an in-between step there. Which of course is dumb. I grew up an athlete. It means like, of course there's a step between Tom Brady and Pee Wee football. Like there must be a step there. But I just never done the math to realize there's a musical equivalent of that. And seeing that was very impactful. And I think, similar to your experience, was like that's where I'm going to find. I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know what the road for me looks like, but that's where I'm going to end up. That's it.
Yeah.
I know you said you were playing trombone. I believe this also went through you playing Berklee. So I think this was, going to Berklee rather. So I believe this was when you were saying like you believed trombone was going to be your life. It sounds like that was all through college, and I assume a lot of college was then geared of like, I'm going to the Boston Symphony Orchestra. It's going to be trombone. And I know we were talking earlier before the show that I saw a video of you reacting to like your high school cafeteria performance of like, there is metal starting to blossom here. I won't hold your feet to the fire on that one because I know we all have high school videos that we would love to move on from at times. But there seems like there was like this blossoming metal thing, but still your heart, the safer bet was on the trombone, was traditional music. Where during Berklee do you start to go like, hey, I think this other vocal coaching thing can happen here. I think there is something in me that is special and it can exist outside of it, which also seems like it would be an identity crisis of sorts, where your whole life has been invested into playing trombone, and now all of a sudden it's like, I think I can gamble on this weird art form that feels like an underbelly of music, I assume, compared to what you were used to.
It definitely was a bit of a gamble, and everyone in my life, my family at the time, after investing so much in the trombone and like going into so many different exciting places with that, as I started to make that switch, the immediate thought was just, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Like, this is terrible. It sounds terrible. Stop doing this.
Yes.
Why are you doing this to me?
Yes.
And especially because like alternative music and metal and extreme vocals were not nearly as widespread or as mainstream or as accepted then as they are now. Like just the last couple of years, the way that the public shift on this has changed is incredible and amazingly good for business too.
Yes, I've been fascinated by the Post Malone and Billie Eilish's of the world. With like, they're starting to be this blend from like the top of the music industry into our world, and there's still a couple stepping stones left before Knocked Loose is on the same platform as them. But the Kimmel thing is evidence of a shift, and of course also probably momentum to a further shift here. If there was some 6-year-old who saw that and went, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. But I'm fascinated to see in 20 more years, it feels like the next generation is going to have a world where this is not as underground as it currently is. And there's going to be, some equivalent to a Knocked Loose in the Billie Eilish, Post Malone conversation. And they're
Oh,
starting
yeah.
to blend into our world, but they're not quite there. And I think Poppy is another like half step there of someone who is in this mainstream, in this big boys club, big kids club, I guess to use a gender neutral term. But yeah, we're getting there. And it's fascinating to watch us all blossom. And I assume, for business, that is a great thing. But certainly it's not where you were when you're leaving Berklee. Or did you finish Berklee? Did you end up like finishing, graduating?
My time at Berklee College of Music was very short-lived.
Okay.
I did not last very long. And I did get into Berklee on trombone specifically. Like that was what I was supposed to be there for. And then I got there and I did do some of that. And I had some amazing experiences like playing lots of different kinds of stuff. My favorite was getting kind of snuck into a class that was way more advanced than I was supposed to be in, which was New Orleans jazz, which was so much fun. And I learned a lot in that too. But I also started to get way more opportunities in terms of vocals and in terms of using my voice and screaming. Because this was when there started to be different metal ensembles at the school. This is when like more of that started to be like what people attending were interested in. And people were starting to form bands. Like people were meeting up, getting together, doing these things. And I had my own band at the time, but I started to meet other people with similar interests to me and that wanted to do it. And I just started to try to vocalize as much with as many different people as I possibly could. And that's not only what led to me leaving the school after just 1 year and starting to tour right away, like leaving that first year, immediately getting in a van and going on almost a full US tour over the course of 3.5, 4 weeks, but also starting to make some lifelong friends that you'll still recognize to this day, like the guitar player in Renaissance and my best friend in the world, Dave Dunsire, and I met at Berklee in the same year while we were there, and neither of us finished, and both of us have crossed paths so many times since then, and now we're here just doing the thing together again. So, and then even meeting other people through the Berklee sphere, having so many friends that teach there now, having taught clinics there now, and then even getting my own personal teaching start there was very cool, because I would just have kids come up to me asking questions, and because I had the ability to connect with people, communicate effectively, and then actually get people from point A to point B, I would just start to have conversations like outside of Berklee on the street, just in public, screaming full volume out of sheer necessity because I had nowhere else to go, and helping them with things like that just on the streets of Boston and then sending them on their way. And over the course of that, and then starting to make my way into the industry, helping other artists with the same thing in the same kind of guerrilla warfare way of teaching, that's kind of what created what Extreme Vocal Institute is now.
That's beautiful. And I think it also, it makes sense to me that like, part of my question for you is like how it seems hard to become an expert and hard to like become comfortable in being an expert on vocals. And I think like, this is something like for me with camera stuff, I still have like a challenging time. Like I still view myself as a beginner, and I'm objectively not a beginner. I'm objectively more skilled in that, but I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm an expert with a camera. That is a crazy thing to say. And I feel like with vocals, there's probably a similar leap here of like, you're an expert in the sense that you've gotten to teach big dogs, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But like, it would be almost narcissistic to assert yourself as an expert. And I think probably that going through the Berklee teaching and all the other musical teachings before that kind of helped you get comfortable in teaching music and helping you take yourself out from like this expert role to just like a sharer of knowledge. Was there like some like benefit to going through all the Berklee and kind of like learning how to learn music, how to teach music that you can then like apply? Like, are you now emulating professors you had at the time?
If anything, it's the exact opposite.
Fascinating. Okay.
And in no means is this a knock, but like, especially because I have so many friends like in our same age group that are now teaching at the school now. And it's so cool to see education as a whole really shifting into the direction that's very similar and in line with how I do things. But a big part of what drew me to extreme music like this in the first place and made me want to learn how to scream and pursue this as a lifestyle is the fact that it was so uniquely different from all of my experiences, not just performatively, but educationally, coming from classical and jazz and then into like the Berklee College of Music sphere at the time when I was younger, because of the fact that everything was just so structured and so everything had to be to a T accurate. And I had had so many years of that in my life, which helped me in some ways, again, going back to being detail oriented. At this stage of my life, especially, I just kind of needed chaos.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with a lot of chaos, and I was living with a lot of chaos, and just everything being so perfectly structured and needing to be so exact. And in a lot of ways, information being very outdated
Yep.
was starting to really drive me crazy. And that's when I really felt the need to take things into my own hands and take what I had learned in these spheres and then start to combine it with totally different kinds of worlds of thought, like talking to different people that specialize in athletics, people that specialize in different like forms of yoga and meditation, different like even different spiritual leaders I've spoken to, different people that work on things like psychology, like mental health, and then working with so many different types of singers, working with different vocalists on the road that do similar things to what I do and within our sphere, and combining all of it into what I now teach here as a vocal coach and with everything that I do at the Extreme Vocal Institute. And what that really what came down to in the very beginning stages was that kind of awkward hurdle of, okay, if I take this step forward and I started Extreme Vocal Institute when I was only 24, like officially under that name. So being able to take that step forward, teaching this clinic at Berklee, to say that I'm an expert feels insane.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense. Like even though I'm the one that's helping people, I'm the one like actually getting people from A to B. Because I'm just me. Like in my head, even still to this day, like I know that I'm able to do these things, but I'm definitely still just me. I am still that kid kind of in the back in the orchestra, wanting to get my own voice out just like anybody else. And there are those moments of, I guess I would say that mild identity crisis, a little bit of that imposter syndrome, so to speak. But I just knew that it needed to be done because I saw so many people online and in person and kids at home and people on tour suffering and struggling internally and so anxious about all of this and what being a vocalist meant and how to do it. And at the time, especially, it was such a private, guarded, walled up thing and experience for everybody. And no one was getting the help that they needed because I had people telling me that they felt like they had nowhere to go. And I just knew deep down, I have to do something about this. So whether I feel like I'm an expert or not, I'm here and I do think I know what to do. And I'm going to help as many people as I can. And that was the mission statement, and it still is now. It's
a beautiful and noble pursuit. And I think, it's we're in this world that like learning is not cool in our world. Like there's this our industry, and I was someone who 100 different stories here, but one of them is that like for me, my college story was a similar one to yours and a different one. But like for me, I was I did well academically, but it was always this miserable thing. And so I always hated. And then I got to the university. I did a year, and it was like, this is fine. I can do this. I can get good grades, and I can go get a job and do the thing that I'm supposed to do. But this is not calling my soul. This feels reductive to me in a sense that just doesn't align with what I want. And so that's when I take a leap. And I think I had a similar familiar interaction where they were like, we support you, we trust you, we believe in you, but this is a gamble and the odds are not in your favor here. This statistically is not an ideal way to pursue. They were great. And my parents were very supportive in that. But like any good parent would be, any concerned family, any concerned adult would be like, hey, the trombone here, for me, my grades, it's like, there is a much easier path to success here, a much more traditional path to success that is a lot more predictable here.
And everyone leans in close and says, are you sure about this?
Yes. And for me, the honest answer was no. At the time, it was like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to try everything. And I tried a bunch of stuff, and the camera was the one that stuck. But it was this bizarre moment where like I appreciate that you had like the internal calling that I think I lacked still at that point in my crossroads. But then the other part of this is like part of me disliking school. My parents are both teachers, both professors. And so it's always this bizarre thing of like, I don't hate you. I don't hate what you're doing, but the institution you work in does not align with what I would like to align with. And my parents, so I'd always come home and be like, math is dumb. Like this is stupid. Why am I learning calculus? Like the Pythagorean theorem is great. What am I doing? What is this for? What is the purpose of this? And my dad would always say, once you learn how to learn one thing, you learn how to learn anything. And it always like made me mad. I'm like, I'm not learning math to learn how to learn. This is not why I'm taking tests. This is not like what I'd be graded on here. But there is the truth there. And as you mentioned, you were going into exploring like psychologists and different like spiritual experts and all these kinds of things. It's like you want to find other experts that how did you get good at your thing? and kind of integrated that into yours, which is to me a similar principle here. Is like once you learn how to learn trombone, you could then go out and like learn what other people have done and then apply that back in. And so there is this like truth that now I have to eat my words whenever I see my dad. It's like, you're right, Dad. Calculus, I don't use it. And once in a while, I use some slope to figure out, video stuff. There's some numbers, some math involved. But for the most part, I'm not using that. But I now feel confident that I can go, pick up a camera, go to YouTube University, and I can figure this out. I can teach myself this, and I can learn it. And it seems like the trombone here is a similar foundation. Like, give you the confidence of like, okay, now I can apply this to vocals, and I can learn how to learn this and how to share what I've learned. The other part of this, I think, is being comfortable as an expert here, which I think is a fascinating part. It sounds like, so I assume the vocal coaching starts with you and like your friends. You mentioned you went on a tour out of Berklee. It sounds like what I assume happened here is that there was one guy saying, hey, how do you do that? And then, of course, you're combining this with Reddit comments, Facebook comments, whatever the online public forum version of this. Yeah. But there was some personal that led you to, being in a street in Boston, giving public vocal lessons vocal lessons in public. Where is this leap then from one friend saying, hey, David, how do you do this? To then two friends saying, hey, David, how do you do this? Where does this thing then become Extreme Vocal Institute? Like, what is the final push that takes you from 5 of my friends have these questions to this is now an entity that I'm going to pursue on its own?
It happened in my head. It feels like it was over the course of a very long time. But then when I look at like the actual number of physical years that this took, it was really fast, like really, really fast, to the point where like I was barely into my first few years of touring, barely into my first few years of even knowing how to do any of this even remotely okay myself. And I'm in green rooms with different bands, trying to help them with different things, not even realizing what I'm doing there is coaching. Like I'm just doing what feels natural, and I'm kind of definitely a caretaker at heart. So that's kind of where that came from for me. And then eventually, just through circumstance and through sheer necessity, because I needed a job because I had nothing at the time, I ended up working at a School of Rock franchise near where I was at the moment. I started working with kids, and that was a big learning experience and kind of more semi-professionally actually teaching voice for the first time, although I wasn't there to teach screaming, because I teach plenty of singing stuff as well across the entire board of what's possible. And when it came down to how to just do this professionally, how to do it full time, it was definitely just a decision that I made. And I hit a point where I've had a lot of what I'm gonna call rock bottom points in my life, and I knew I needed to like pull myself out of them because no one else would. And when the company was just me, because it hasn't been for quite some time, that's Riley and I running everything together. When it was just me and I needed to pull myself out of that pit, I knew I also at the same time needed to help everybody else, like I already said to you. So I just kind of decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do, slapped the name on it, had the website, had the beginnings of the infrastructure, and just started taking on people in the area. I had my friends help me putting together this clinic at Berklee. And then from there, it just spiraled. Different artists wanted to work with me. As we started to arrive at COVID is when Riley and I started to really tackle what the infrastructure of this is, what the business is, what the public-facing part of this is, and how to help people on more of a global scale as opposed to a more regional scale, or like the people just immediately around me, which was my strong suit at the time. And then as COVID hit, really leaning into, and you already mentioned this, YouTube University. I wouldn't have anything in my life, know almost any of the people that I do or live this way, if it wasn't for YouTube University and being someone involved in and living inside of that. And that took off. Instagram took off. TikTok took off. Because we joined all these things, we made sure to create different things for all these platforms that we thought and that I thought would be the most helpful for people. And it just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. And here we are, working with so many people, helping so many people, having a very, very expansive online program called EVI Now that we help so many people with all around the world that they're all subscribed to. And just the amount of responsibility that we have and the kind of seat that we're in the industry and in terms of helping to push the boundary of what all this stuff is doing is unbelievable. And I'm really proud of what we've done. And kind of like I'm saying, it happened in the grand scheme of things very fast. And it's still constantly changing all the time. And I'm just stoked to be able to have the privilege to have to keep up with it.
100%. I'm very curious about this, like adding Riley into the business part of it, because I appreciate they're so detail oriented. I think I identify with you on that of like, it's hard for me to give up control because I have this thing of like, if I want it done right, I'm going to do it. And that is great to a degree. That is like, it has helped me a lot in the video aspect of like, yes, I'm happy being a one-man show in a lot of ways. I understand there's a ceiling on that. And as I get closer to that ceiling, I'm now starting to go like, it's great that I can do everything in-house. There is a point of diminishing returns here where I try to do everything in-house, trying to do everything with my own two hands. I am limiting the amount of good I can contribute to this thing that I so much believe in. And I assume for you being detail-oriented, there would be a similar challenge here of like, this is your baby. This is something you did from, 24 through so many years. I assume it would be challenging then to bring in someone else. And of course, it has worked out brilliantly and you guys have grown so much together. But it feels like it'd be a very challenging thing to like share the reins with someone and trust someone and bring someone to the fold to do things with as much care and as much detail as you yourself would. What was the process then like of adding in Riley and using that like as a massive expansion point for the business? But I'm sure, it was scary at first to be like, here's my baby. Please don't drop it. Please hold this thing and love it as much as I would love it.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely ran the one-man show thing for a while. I did that in a lot of respects of my life, like between like different bands and different stuff with the business, because I've had a lot of people in the past burn me pretty bad. I've written a lot of songs around it. So it's given me a lot of source material to work off of, and that's been great. But at the time, and especially now, like I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of introspective work here. Like I've had a very, very tough time letting go of and surrendering control, because I've always been someone with very big ideas and a lot of very detailed ideas. And when those things don't go exactly the way I need them to or I want them to in the moment, it can be very hard sometimes for me to deal with that. And it definitely was way more back then. And starting to kind of let someone like Riley in and others that have been so beneficial to what my ideas are and what this whole project is has been immensely, immeasurably valuable, especially with people like Riley having more of a marketing background and understanding, where I was coming at it purely from the expressive and how to help people understanding and being able to take these ideas, both of us kind of learn from each other and build it into what we have now. And then even spearheading everything from what we do online together, because none of that came from me. Are you kidding? like I am such an advocate for collaborating on important things and ideas, and everything we do here is a collaboration. Everything in my life now is such a massive collaboration, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. And I've gotten a lot better at letting go of that control and being able to do the amount of different things that we do, like between touring and coaching, between the band, between now our own podcast Behind the Screams, what we do with our online program EVI Now, like all of the different things we have, our YouTube channel, which we have been still going strong with. Like it's a lot to do, and with Riley and I being the only two like people officially like as a part of this business, it's a lot of work. We've had to build multiple studios, like this amazing studio that we're in of yours here. Now we've built multiple at this point. We had to teach ourselves all the video editing, all of the audio editing, all the processing, all the distribution, all of the advertising platforms. Like just every single thing is just the two of us, and it's definitely a lot, and it's very draining sometimes and very demanding on a regular basis. And as you know about the industry, ever changing. Nothing's ever the same 2 days in a row. But I think we do a very good job of being present, being available to people, and keeping an open mind as things change and as we need to adapt, and as we adapt what we are doing to continually help other people more and more, better and better as time goes on.
Absolutely. I think the volume of the output for you guys is incredible, but I think volume is not always a measure of quality. And I think a lot of people put out a lot of content, but I don't know if all of it is great. I'm impressed that you guys have made this balance of like, there's an incredible volume and all of it feels very helpful. Like I'm not a vocalist, but as I go through, it's like, this feels like good information. This feels like something that I would like to learn, and I would send to my vocalist friend and be like, this is important for you. And I think finding that balance is must be overwhelming, right? Like it's not, again, there's one thing to put out a post every day. It's another thing to put out a good post every day. And I assume in the context of YouTube, all the different avenues, all the different verticals, to use the fancy word here. It's like, I can only imagine how overwhelming it must be at times. And then, yeah, to try and make sure that you're not just putting stuff out for the sake of continuing numbers. It's like, there has to be value in this.
Exactly. And that's something I've always driven. I've definitely let go in some healthy ways with that. But something the perfectionist in me has always really held on to is like, if I'm going to make something, it has to be for a reason.
Yep.
Especially on the educational front of things, like, because I do see a lot of different like content out there, and it's cool that there's a lot of vocal content specifically out there now, and there's a wide variety of it, and some of it is quite clever, quite funny, as people like kind of make different skits out of it, and I'm stoked to have, through what I do, inspired so many others to kind of get out there and help people do too, and do the same sort of thing. But I definitely do see very often a lot of quantity over quality. And I think that's a byproduct of the society that we live in today. I think that's a byproduct of the way social media has kind of trained people to think and how it's trained people to prioritize.
Yep.
And because I happen to grow up with very limited access to it, just because of what my own life was, I have kind of been forced through that necessity to like, okay, if I'm only going to be able to do this thing with something for a very limited amount of time, I better make it count for everything.
Yes.
And I do that with the vocal coaching very, very much. And we've done a lot with it. I like to pride myself on being able to come up with multiple different, more additional ways of how to scream per day, because everybody's so different and I have to keep adapting the way I'm teaching to the amount of people that I meet.
Yes.
So I put that into videos. I find different ways to relate what this is to people to make it less intimidating and less scary and less vocabulary centric and just more inviting.
Yep.
Kind of like we were talking about, like a lot of this world of learning extreme vocals like this was so closed off and like, oh, I don't talk about that to anybody kind of thing. It was so guarded. And I'm very proud of the fact that the work that we've put in and what we've done with EVI and the teaching content that I've made has been a big part in turning around the court of public opinion into making it so now learning how to scream is cool now. Not just doing it, but actually getting help and learning how and knowing what you're doing is objectively sick.
And doing it sustainably, I think maybe is the other huge part of this. Of like, I think there are a lot of, or in my experience, I've seen a lot of bands who can perform great tonight, but the idea of doing it tonight and tomorrow night and the rest of the week and the week after that is like, I think a lot of people have trouble with that. I appreciate all the amount of content there. I'm curious on a personal level here, going back a minute to like adding in Riley to the business. I think I have like a lot of my identity is being self-employed. A lot of my identity is this baby that I've built that I take a lot of pride in, like, this is what I have done. And then on a personal level, it almost seems like I'm scared to bring other people in because it feels like to some degree I'm like undermining my own autonomy here, my own desire to be like independently fortified. And I'm curious if you had a similar process here. Like, was there like it sounds like as you were going here, there's a huge part of you that's like just determined to make David successful in this. And it feels like, for me, at least, as I try and bring someone else, and there's a part of this where it's like, yeah, the classic saying is like, do you want half a grape or half a watermelon or something, or whatever, whole grape or half a watermelon? And to me, it's like half a watermelon is the obvious choice here. But I like that the grape is entirely mine. There is something like in my, I don't know if it's my ego, I don't know if it's insecurity, I don't know exactly what in me it is.
Yeah.
But I like that I own the grape. Was there any challenge for you here on like a personal level of like admitting that you need help and accepting that help is the way to make EVI the most helpful to the most people? Was there any part of David that was like, hesitant to relinquish control here and accept help?
Peter, my man, I held onto that grape with an iron grip for as long as I could.
Yes.
And that didn't really get me much.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't really get me to many places. And it's only when I started to let that go is when the light kind of shone in. Mm-hmm. And that's when my entire life started to turn around for the better in every direction. And like, there have been a lot of amazing people that have been a part of that along the way. Riley is one of them in terms of what we've built together here with Extreme Vocal Institute and with what we work on together for Renesans, because at the moment we're independent and we're self-managed as well. When it comes to, like I said, like how I'm such an advocate for collaboration now, You can't build an empire on your own.
I'm trying, but yes, you are correct that it is a very difficult feat. Yes.
And I mean like a real empire too. And the big thing when I was so focused on like everything being, it's just me by myself, I can do this. I never thought that I would be capable of the kind of greatness of what we've been able to achieve in so many different ways now. I never thought that was possible deep down through different insecurities, through different life circumstances kind of holding me down at the time. Like I didn't think I would aspire to be that. I would be so inspired by big leaders and big, like incredible vocalists and different bands and different people in the industry. But I never felt deep down like I could like truly get to that point. So that like that feeling of like almost holding myself back a little bit is what was wrapped up in that same idea of just like holding on so tight to that. Yeah. And I let that go, and I let go of the idea of that version of myself that could never like make it, so to speak. And everything just exploded. Everything's happened seemingly like over these last few years, like from COVID on, like all at once. And I'm so like every single day, like so grateful for it. And I try to make a really important point to like practice that gratitude as well, as much as I practice anything else. Because again, you can't build something this powerful and with such sustain and such impact and influence on your own, depending on where you want it to go. And that's not to say even like for you and what you're doing that you can't do what you're doing on your own. But when you give yourself the opportunity to let other people in, because it's not you like letting other people in, you are giving yourself the opportunity to let these other people into your life and into your business and kind of holding that baby with you, so to speak, raising it with you. It creates a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it can only expand upon what you're doing rather than detract.
That is beautiful wisdom. So I appreciate that. I think the other part of this you mentioned is the gratitude leg of this, which I've also been working on practicing of like making sure I stop and smell the roses. And for me, a lot of times this is when I'm on set. It's like taking a breath and there's looking around and being like, these people are having a good time. And like, this product is going to be what it is. And I hope it's the best video I've ever made. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But at the very least, today is a good day. These people are happy to be here. This is an exciting part of their lives to be a part of. I think for you, there'd be a similar part where you're, coaching someone vocally, and it's like you get to empower what they love more than anything, right? Like when someone comes to you for coaching, they are sharing, no one does metal vocals half-assed. Or I'm sure there are people who do it casually. I know you mentioned there are some people who come just to sing in the car for more fun or some kind of casual, but like that's an intimate part of themselves that they're sharing. Vocals is a very intimate thing that we're doing. This is not like a driving test. That's kind of like a sterile, like, here's how you drive a car that everyone's going to learn. This is an intimate thing that people are learning. As you're now working with like higher level clientele, and I hate the word clientele, so maybe higher level partners, whatever the better term there is that you're working with. It seems like there'd be a moment that would be like, it'd be tough, or I think I would feel almost insecure at times in that room. I'm curious, like as you get into these bigger rooms, like are you comfortable in the rooms? Like when you're working with an artist who has exceeded numeric success, whatever that is on paper, whatever, number of Grammys, whatever number of gold records, whatever that metric is of success, of objective, numerical, quantifiable success. How does it feel to be in that room then? Like, do you ever have moments of insecurity in there? Is it a place of like, you just get to share what you love and connect to them on a human level? Is there ever a moment of, damn, how did I get here kind of moment?
I definitely have that, like, what is my life? How is this possible moment every now and again after the fact, once I'm kind of on my own. But in the moment and very early on in my career, just like as a person, not even like being a vocal coach officially, I learned that like all of the different like bands I looked up to, like everyone that's a touring artist, all the people that you see doing all these big, amazing things are just that, people. Like everyone's just people. Everyone has their own lives, their own stories, their own things they're dealing with. And I learned that real quick as I started to meet people like that at a very young age. And as I started to get into these bigger rooms, whether it's like I'm meeting up with people to work with them on tour in like massive stadiums, or I'm on tour with big bands myself, like as their vocal coach, or with my band Renesans, or now like going into the studio and working with massive producers and helping bands with the vocals on their albums, and then watching those albums change history more or less. In the moment, I am extremely comfortable. Like, I feel like I'm in my element. I understand the people that are there. All of us are on the same wavelength. We all want the same things. We all have the same goals. All of our stories kind of align. And you'll notice, like, the more this kind of goes, like when you're in rooms with people that are hungry for this and still working on it to the way that they are, personalities end up being very similar too. So I've made a lot of amazing lifelong friends through this too. And it's been an amazing process. I've made really amazing friends with people that I would have never imagined I would have ever spoken to in my life otherwise, or people that I would have even imagined, oh, I would never be friends with that person because there's no way, because like we're too different.
Yep.
And I've been proven wrong so many times, and it's awesome. And the experience that I get just on a human level from working with the amount of people and the variety of people that I do, from like massive touring artists to just people at home, people that just want to scream in their car, people that just want to be able to go to karaoke on Friday and not hurt themselves and feel like they're having a good time and have that little moment in the week where they get to express themselves outside of what their regular day-to-day life looks like. It's all equally important to the individual. Everyone has their lives, everyone has their story, and I'm so stoked to be able to kind of be a part of that for everybody in any kind of fashion that I can.
I've had the exact same takeaway of like, the more I've been in rooms with people that I look around and go, damn, I don't think I belong in this room. The more I'm in the room, I go, oh, they are me. And it's crazy how much relatability there is, and how much I think I come back to the term of like kindred spirits or something of like, there is, I think some of this is like being in like the niche of metal. There is something brave that has to happen for someone to go like, this is my life. I understand that there are other life options, but this is going to be mine. And I think that is, to me, I think the foundation here of like, there is just some root, I don't know what the term for the trait of a kind of human being is, but there is some characteristic that is common to everyone in this universe, or 99%. I guess I shouldn't speak in absolutes there, but in a lot of people here, that the more I end up in these rooms, it's like, oh yeah, these are all just people. These are all just guys. And like, I was with a band that was, a very successful band, and they were grown men. They're 45-year-old men. So I remember kind of going in and being like, these guys, they've been around the world. They've done everything. I don't belong in this room. And watching them in their band practice was like, oh, this is the same as every local band. Like, this is the same 5 characters. Like, it is 5 guys, and they're 20 years older than the 5 guys that I'm used to.
Maybe on the outside.
But on the inside, they're the exact same 5 characters. And there's the goofy guy, there's the detail-oriented guy, there's the aloof guy. Like, there's 5 like archetypes of band members that are all present here. Yes. And they're all the same, whether they are Grammy-nominated, internationally successful, or playing their local venue once a month kind of thing, whatever that is. And it's been I think the podcast here is also another leg of that. Of like, the more I sit down and talk to people, are like, I had Brian from Currents on, Brian Will.
Love Brian, love his voice.
He's the best, he's incredible. And I were kind of chatting with him of like, it feels like you've done it. It feels like you're doing the thing, and it feels like it must be hard to stay hungry. And he goes, I'm on day one here. Like, and it was this kind of beautiful thing of like, oh yeah, even for someone at that level, they are still this like, this hunger to get better that I can identify with, and this like, I don't know, I don't want to call it insecurity because that is like a negative connotation with it, but almost like a desire of like, I can be more. There is more inside me that I have to find. This like desire to keep mining his own potential that I really appreciate. It was kind of beautiful to hear someone that to me is objectively successful and then go like, damn, it's the same person. Like, I relate and identify so much with this person despite what they've done. And that has been my encounters with so many folks who have been in that world. It's kind of beautiful to hear you say the same thing of like, even at the next level, the next stratosphere of success, it's all the same thing.
It's incredible. And even speaking of Brian, speaking of like the world of like Currents and stuff like that, like people in that camp are so amazing and so positive and impactful on the people around them. And that's another thing that I've found through all the people that I've met throughout the industry, including their fearless leader, Chris Wiseman, who is such a good boy. I love that man so much. What he does with Currents and Shadow of Intent is so cool and so exciting. And Chris is one of the first people, along with many others close to me in my life, that pushed me to do Renaissance in the first place.
It's beautiful.
Like, just to get out there and do it and have this thing that's mine and really put myself out there and like see what I can do with it. And that spiraled into the point where when we kept running into each other on tour, we wanted to work together on something. And Chris and I wrote Labor of Hate musically and The Guilt Machine together back to back, and other things since. And we had so much fun with that. And those songs have done so much for us and so have really become the catalyst of what Renaissance really is and like how much people love this and love the music and love it live too. And I would definitely not be here without people like that. And that's the cool thing when I'm working with different people where their records are going gold, they're all over the place on the radio, or just like people at home. Like I learn something from everyone that is across the aisle from me. Like I learned so much from that person as much as they are learning from me. And I've been able to do so much with that. And I'll say something similar to Brian, where even though a lot of people view me vocally as the so-called expert, I am still here learning just like everybody else. I am still in a band working our way through the ranks just like everybody else. I'm still learning things about my own voice and my own person every day just like everybody else. And I'm definitely a big advocate for the phrase, like, there's no point in trying to feel like you're done learning by any means. Like the point isn't to feel like you are done or to be done, because the act of working on it and the act of growing is the most important part. Like that's the whole point.
100%. Yes. The name of the show here formerly was Something from Everyone, from the phrase learning something from everyone. It's since been abbreviated just to from everyone, but it is the same idea here of like,
there we are.
The more that I'm in this world, it's like there is 1% that I can gain from everyone else. And the goal here, selfishly, is to make me the best version of me. And I've learned the best way to do that is to go, what do you do well? And how do I incorporate this into me? And how do I take 1% of David and 1% of Brian and 1% of Chris? And like, Currents is a Connecticut band. They're a band that I saw at VFWs and photographed at VFWs many, many times before they were the Currents that they are now. And it's been, beautiful to watch that growth. And it's a part of like, can I take 1% of that? I don't know exactly what that 1% is, but if I can take 1% of that and 1% of this, then every day I can become 1% better of myself. And over time, that will pay dividends. And to your point, it is a never finished product. There is no end goal here. And that's kind of the fun part here, is this idea of like, I think what I like about my job, what I like about this creative process is that like, I'm climbing a mountain that has no peak. And I just get to climb this mountain, which I think is daunting in a sense. But to me, there's also this like beautiful freedom of like, I'm just going to keep going up. And I don't know exactly where it goes. I don't know what's at the top of this mountain. I don't think there is a top to this mountain. I think at some point, 20-year-old me was like, I'm going to make a video for X and I'm going to be happy. And it's like, well, no, I'm going to make a music video for X and look up at the next milestone and just keep looking up the mountain and seeing if there's another peak I can find. But that's beautiful. As we approach our hour here, I'd like to wrap up with a couple formal standard questions here. One of them is, what's something you're currently learning then? So as you describe yourself as you're still in motion, you're still in progress here, you're still trying to find a better version of David. What's something either vocally, as a business owner, as a band member, as a band, touring band member, as a band performer, what's something you're currently learning, current time to improve upon? What's something that you are currently, incubating into a better form of whatever it may be?
I'll give you all of those as quick as I can. Okay. Kind of like I've been saying on just the human front, a big part of it has been a deeper dive into letting go of control. Yeah. And letting go of how detail-oriented something needs to be at any given moment. And that's been incredibly rewarding already. On the vocal front, especially now that Renesans and I are touring so much more, and I still have equally as many responsibilities, if not more, on tour than when I am off, especially on the vocal front. I'm still coaching people. I'm still making content. I'm still helping people. I'm also tour managing. I'm also selling merch. I'm running around. I'm helping all the other bands. I'm doing things for myself. There's a lot of voice being used. So on stage, like during our sets, whether it's a headline set, a festival slot, which is usually shorter, like we just played Milwaukee Metal Festival, and we have the Road to Warped Tour coming up. Or if it's a direct support slot set, anywhere from like 25 to like 50-hour long sets. It's about, for me, I'm trying to scale down how much energy am I using compared to how much energy do I have. So really trying to hone in, almost like meditate before set, really try to gather the energy I have, take deep breaths, eat well during the day, like manage my schedule well, and make sure that at the end of any given show, like I have more energy than I used. And that's not to say I'm not performing, because if for those of you that have seen Renesans live, I definitely put a lot into it.
It's evident from the videos, yeah.
Whether it's my band or if I'm doing a guest vocal spot for somebody else, like I'm trying to make sure I have more energy at the end of the day than I lost or that I used, rather. And then on the business front of things, it's kind of the same thing, just working on always not perfecting, but trying to improve upon, okay, what is the balance of all of these things? How do I balance being a business owner with regular day-to-day life? How do I balance being a business owner with being a front person, with being a band leader, with being a tour manager, with being a husband, with being a friend, with being a family member? And how do I do justice and do right by all of those things? Is a big important thing that I'm working on right now. And I always have been, but I'm just kind of in the middle of, and it's funny that you asked me these things, I'm in the middle of taking a deeper dive into a lot of this now and trying to balance it all, especially now that things are getting busier and doing better and we're objectively all over the place all the time. It's the kind of things you need to do in order to live like a really fulfilling and really balanced life. So that would be my answer to that.
I've gathered this. I wish I could sort. I like to cite my sources, and I guess this is my English professor dad coming back out of me of like, we need citations here. But the wisdom, or the gist of the wisdom, was something like your business shouldn't serve your life, or sorry, your life shouldn't serve your business should serve your life. And for me, this has been like an ongoing process. I'm still trying to figure out of like, for most of my life to this point, my life has served my business. And I think to some degree, that's what it takes to get something off the ground. That is the early years when like we talk about the desperation, kind of the fear of this thing going under in the first couple of years. And like, there is some amount of desperation that was needed. And my life had to serve my business to get to a point where it could swap. But now it's like, there is some stability, and stability is always a scary thing to say in the self-employed world.
Yes.
But there is some that I could fall back on of like, I can be pretty confident that a year from now, I'm still gonna be doing this thing, and that this thing is not gonna implode and just die tomorrow. I can be pretty confident that this thing will keep going. And so now my job is to try and flip this and go, okay, how do I make sure that my business is serving my life and that this thing is a part of me, but not the entirety of me, and that I can, explore these other parts of life that are equally valuable and great, because I understand that if I work till I'm 50 and all I've done is work till I'm 50, I'm gonna go, damn, this was kind of a hollow life where I got to do a lot of cool stuff, but it can't just be all about this thing that I'm creating.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then my last question for you here is, we've talked a lot about, the vocal side of this, the music side of this. I'd like to ask about life outside of this. So I believe like hockey is a big part of this. I know your dog Marvel is a big part of this as well. What is David outside of this? What are some interests? What are some hobbies? I believe I saw powerlifting or lifting in general, and fitness as a part of this. What is David outside of music? Where I think, I've come to appreciate that, like, we were talking about how we see people on stage and forget that they are also human. And I think that has been a beautiful realization of like, these are superheroes on stage to me. I know one of them just got a phone call before stage with some bad news, or one of them has something going on in the back of their mind, or there's something happening here. And so appreciating kind of the humanity of people has been a beautiful process, and a part of this that I really appreciate. For you, outside of all the vocal stuff, outside of all the coaching stuff, outside of the band itself, outside of Renesans, who is David? What is something that you're into? What is something that makes you happy outside of just what you're doing here?
And I like to add a lot of variety where I can, although everything vocal coaching with the band does take up a lot of time even now, because we are still building everything that we do. We're always trying to push forward and grow. But I love riding bikes so much. We like to ride bikes a lot at home. We take the dog on a lot of walks when we can.
We're talking like mountain biking. We're talking like cycling. Like what does riding bikes mean to you?
It kind of alternates. We have gravel bikes, so we can kind of switch off between one and the other. We haven't done any serious like bombing downhill.
Nothing on the Red Bull Instagram, but
I don't know if that adrenaline rush is for me, although I know it is for some people. Like, we love riding into Boston. We love going around the city. We love just like going out to eat when we can. Ice cream trips are a must. Being from Massachusetts, that's a big must. I personally love like any time like the sun is out, like anytime it's like this time of year, things are starting to get nicer. As if I can be by or near a beach, be near sand, be near water, that is like the most important thing to me.
Interesting. Okay.
Like that's a big one for me. Being outside as much as possible, just in general, is one of the most important things to me, like in my life at all. And alongside with that, just like personal fitness and personal well-being are a big interest of mine. And I have been on different like teams for like powerlifting or like bodybuilding, like companion sport stuff, like collaboration stuff on teams as opposed to like on your own, which has been a really cool experience. And I have incorporated a lot of that knowledge and that mindset into the way that I teach and into the way that I've built a lot of these programs as well, which has been really beneficial. But then always kind of experimenting with my body and with what I'm able to do at any given moment, and with my own well-being and my health, and like, where can I push the limit? Where can I grow? What can I learn from? What kind of skills can I start to learn? Like, what kind of things can I get good with in terms of if it's like picking something up and putting it down, or a bigger interest almost in the last few years is different levels of athletics, and where can that go, and how can I break that down, and into what different directions? And that's given me a lot of insight and a lot of deep appreciation for other people that do those things. Hockey's very important for us. And for me now, like very much a hockey-centric Bruins household being from Massachusetts.
Boston. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But it's beautiful. Yeah, I've gotten into golf in the last couple of years, and that's been like again, I had no hobbies outside of creating. Everything was camera-oriented. This was
I
like
saw your clubs upstairs. Yeah.
They're not beautiful, but they're mine. And it was one of like those first like big moments like, oh, I finally have time to have a hobby again. I have the mental energy to have a hobby and like learn something else and invest in something else. And I think that's like there's a symbiosis there that then makes it easier to come back to my desk and easier to edit the videos and easier to stay up late and have the longer nights when there is this kind of like other side that I could explore and blow off some stress with.
Exactly.
I will end with the hardest question I've asked so far, very jokingly there. You mentioned you're a big ice cream guy. Are we like chocolate vanilla ice cream guy? Is this like an exotic flavor ice cream guy? What is the ice cream diet of on a perfect day?
Typically, it's really just Oreo.
Okay.
Any kind of like cookie oriented ice cream.
That's the
it.
one?
Like I tend to not deviate.
I'm the same way. Yes.
Yeah.
I eat the same things for months on end, and then I go, I'm finally tired of this, and I'll add a new meal prep in and just cycle those two meals back and forth. Like
Yes.
I am very routine oriented in that sense. Beautiful. Episode 98 from everyone who did it. David, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for making time here. Plugs here for people to be aware of you is that Extreme Vocal Institute is coaching everywhere, so people can sign up there for lessons, coaching, learning, any kind of vocal stuff. So you mentioned it's not just screaming, there is singing, there's anything with your voice that people want to get better at, you're the guy for. Renesans has a new EP out. I know we mentioned we're going to do some work this summer, and then I assume at some point in the year we'll see you back on the road, see you back out somewhere in the universe. And then beautiful. Where can people find you on social media? Where's the best place to get in touch with you? If they're interested in vocal lessons, what's the best way to reach out to you? What should people know before they get out of here?
Lots of stuff is happening here. For anyone that wants to like learn more about their voices and how to scream, they can find more through Extreme Vocal Institute on YouTube, our website, extremevocalinstitute.com, our vast and ever-growing online program, EVI Now, which I'm so proud of, and I'm so proud of the way that we've revamped that and how new everything is now and the ways that there are for people to learn there. Very proud of that. I'm still coaching people one-on-one. I'm always available for lessons also through our website. Renesans has been so busy and on tour throughout this first full year of us being a touring band, which has been so exciting. We have our EP, Born from the End. We have our newest single, Less Than Nothing. So proud of those things. And we have been starting to experiment with some newer material, even live as well, which went really well on this last tour, went amazingly at Milwaukee Metal Festival. And I'm excited to bring the heat in just a little over a week at the Road to Warp Tour, which is going to be such a good time. That's with our friends in Escape the Fate, and It Dies Today, and Scary Kids, Scaring Kids, and so many others. That's going to be nuts. And there's definitely a lot more for Renesans coming up in the future too that I can't wait to share.
Beautiful.
And thank you, Peter, so much for having me and for structuring this the way you had and asking such really great and really insightful questions too.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate I'm looking forward to seeing all that grows and hope you get some time to rest and take a breath. Appreciate it all along the way.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. Episode 98 from everyone with David Benites. We done did it, folks. I will see you next week or 2 weeks, whatever.